as we see two of our GOATs facing off. B just coming off a pretty big W at the Homestead Cup, and Louis, after a little bit of a break, he's hoping to claim back the Louis, how can we say, the Louis dominance that we saw for a while. I remember at the Garrison, he won the LAN, and I was just like, this is... It was an upset back then, but we're happy to have him back. He might need a little bit of time to get back on that level, though.
He really was on a tear back then, wasn't he? He was, I mean, going for the very, very tippy top. We were wondering how long that would last. Kind of took some time away, kind of fell down a bit. But man, for a moment there, he was the best player in AoE for a short stint there. Coming back at it again, going off against B. Good matchup to start today. Starting off on Lakeside, of all things. So, what do you make of the draft? We got 2.5 minutes, loueMT. What do you think of the draft and of the maps coming up today?
Now, the fact that we're getting different bans is great. I feel like with every patch that hits, we just get a little bit of a shift of the meta, and that's exactly what the game needs to stay fresh. But Byzantines being first ban is my new ban that I talked about. Byzantines has not been let through for a while, but it's also not been a top priority ban up until now. Now we're seeing, hey, Byzantines is priority ban, which I'm not surprised about after what I've been hearing people yap behind the scenes. But at the same time, it is nice to see something else getting prior ban. Malians still being up there as well, and Ottomans not backing down. I'm loving this. We're getting consistency, but small changes. The devs are doing stuff, and you can see the waves working.
What have you been hearing about Byzantines behind the scenes then? Pull the curtain back for us, loueMT. What is it about Byzantines now that is making this premier I don't want to see it Civ?
Now, with the Byzantines, from what I can hear without revealing too much, I think what already happened was the fact that you can get 3 mercenary loads from that first berry patch under your TC. And with the nerfs they put in, it made sure that it's a little bit cheaper, but with you getting 3 packs, it feels worth it. Now, for the rest of it, I can't speak, because there has been more changes since then. But I do have to plead the fifth, because, of course, I'm still married to one of the top players. But as Cal's whispering into my ear, the cisterns are cheaper now. And that one is public fact, which is good. Strategy-wise, if I speak, I'm in big trouble.
Cisterns now costing 100 stone. That changes the calculus quite a bit. So no surprise to see those banned. I'm not surprised to see Malians being banned either on both sides. That's a civ that just has been a thorn in people's sides on the tournament scene for a while. And then again with recent changes. But so this matchup coming up here on Lakeside. I gotta admit to you, loueMT, I hate playing on Lakeside. I do not like playing on this map. It's one of those like water maps I personally really hate. What do you make of the matchup here? We got 15 seconds. Which civ do you like better on this map here?
I mean, we've seen Tukluk again and again being banned on water, but KT is still saying, like, hey, don't want to face this. But English being played, I'm excited to see what this looks like, and I think most of us are going to be experiencing what this is for the first time. English, a civ that's been popping out on water here and there, but we haven't seen Lakeside. I don't think we can speak on this at all, considering this map has been a mystery for quite some time. It's took a while to get back into play, but we can take a quick look here, because I think a lot of people might be like, what's Lakeside? Water, yes, but there's only one deep sea fish close to your side, and you do have some shoreline. But of course, we know fish is important, and both of these players agree, as Tukluk and Louis are both going for their water pretty early on.
Yeah, it's amazing to me to see that even with, again, just that one deep sea node on each side of the lake, and then a couple of shoreline fish, even with just that, both players very incentivized to go out and build on the water, get some fishing ships out. This map is interesting because the water does take up so much space. But again, with the resources there's just not that much. But it ends up being kind of an interesting focus. So we'll see how they go. And I am curious to see how Louis uses English here, because again, this is a hybrid water map, and you don't always see English on these maps. But we'll see what plan he has. He is rocking the new magenta color here. What do you think of the new colors, loueMT?
I am loving magenta. I just hate the fact that everyone keeps trying to pick it away from me. So as an original pink enjoyer, it does feel pretty nice to have your pink and magenta on ladder games. I am now an official fan. But I'm liking the fact that they're giving us what we need, and what we needed were a few more colors. I would be excited to see a few more, actually. Ooh, that the moment I see a TC idol at this stage, I know it's just a Monkastier between you and your food, and you hoping to just get enough to just click up and get that villager. And this is the problem with water. Balancing the economy does get a little bit trickier. But yes, the color-wise, I need black, please. I would love to see a little bit of black and white in here. I think it would be a nice touch. Thank you, devs. I know you're watching.
I don't think they'll ever add white as a playable color, just because that's what color civs change into multiplayer when you surrender. So I don't think that's an option, but black would be pretty fun. And I'd be remiss if I didn't note that Cow is whispering into our ear once again, saying that it's worth noting fishing chip bonus for the 2 Glock was removed, so they don't get the bonus resources from it here. So maybe that's a reason that English might be on a slightly better playing level against them here on this map.
Yeah, because we've seen English being used now and again on Holy Island, but again, Lakeside, question mark. You have to consider this is also English with cheaper fishing boats, so you're not thinking about an extended fight on water as much. You're thinking about getting your boats out and getting to the next stage of the game. But Tarklak is a server with a few spicy strategies nonetheless, and we have B fielding that. If you put B on any civilization, I would be quaking in my boots playing up against him. But Louis is also a little bit of a spicy boy, so I like the fact that both of them are playing civilizations where you can pull out the extra stops. But Abbey of Kings is coming out, and what's nice about English is now you have that building that produces the free unit, which just means that, hey, you have map presence and your opponent is going to need to respond. But I see 4 on stone already, and English, ladies and gentlemen, is going for a second TC.
Going for second TC, and now TCs are cheaper, so maybe more viable here. We'll see. I'm really curious what kind of version of Louis we see presented in this series. Like, how far is he going to go? Because he's, to my mind, I think of Louis as a bit of a maverick. Like, he can be just look incredible and unstoppable. But then otherwise, in other tournaments, he's been very, he's good, but beatable. So we'll see which version of Louis we get here today. B, likewise, is always considered a maverick in the scene. So always coming up with new, fresh ways to play. I'm really curious to see how this shapes up as the scouts chase each other back and forth. We're almost up to H2 and we'll be underway with an Abbey of Kings on Louis' side, going for that 2TC build, and on B's side, Tower of Victory.
Now, the timing you can get with English in the 2CC feels really, really good. And I love the fact that Louis can very quickly pull villagers off of food, because of course you have your fishing boats doing the work here, but it just feels so much faster and smoother already. So that needing to age up with 3 villagers already makes sense, because usually with English you go for 2, so you hit that timing just right, but it's just because you don't have as many vills available to your whole goal. But as this is happening, B aged up. Let's go see what his first bit of resources are spent on, because I see a lot of wood and it looks like the water pressure is going to be the most important. Makes sense. You want to get control of that water. You don't care too much about the land just yet. You're not going to be able to land any damage anytime quickly, but getting that water control is already going to give you a pretty nice boost when it comes to you just wanting that food trickle nonstop.
And that's no coincidence that we're seeing B Scout take a look over by that water. He's taking a look, seeing what's there, how many fishing ships has he gone into. B's thinking about it, and there, sure enough, Bagla on its way to go harass that.
Now, that man is going to hit pretty early, and you can see Louis is nowhere near getting the resources he needs for this. But he realizes with him going for second TC, it doesn't really matter. And this is where the top players, their big brains come into action, where we have to ask ourselves, is it worth it giving up that food that you would have had access to in the start of the game to just get that second TC up and running? And the answer is very clearly yes, but as I say this, another dock coming down with more fishing boats, going to be going for those shoreline fish, because of course B, knowing that there's a second TC here, he knows that that economic lead is going to become more and more significant as time goes on.
I don't know, Wham, if you saw that really fun Reddit post that showed someone did a huge breakdown on how long it takes to get a town center to pay itself back. I thought it was really fascinating, just the fact that they designed the post and made it look really good, all the information that was there. The takeaway from that is it takes like 6 to 8 minutes to really pay off the TC. So looking at a timer, he got it up around 5.5 minutes or so, 6 minutes. So we're looking at around minute 12 or so before that really becomes completely online. We'll see if Louis can hold until then, getting some pressure. Meanwhile, setting pressure of his own. This is what English does so incredibly well is, hey, they can build a TC, but also have their own unique knight to come in and take a hack at some vills, as we see here.
And just a nice old charge here feels good. The problem is B doesn't have enough stone to get his own second TC if that was ever the plan. Luckily for him, this is not something that he needs to worry about too quickly. Oh, I say this and I look at those beautiful farms by Louis so early in the game, and this is what pure English gameplay is about. Just having safe food access. It snowballs so quickly, but this time B has a response, and that response is having the water. And with him now going to be having access to 2 deep sea patches, he's going to be having a much easier time of just keeping up, at least to not let that second TC advantage kicking too early. Because like I said, it's between 6 and 8 minutes. But now when you can keep up, it doesn't really pay off to the same extent. That's when you need a little bit more time for you to really have that advantage.
Exactly. So you see Double Dock moving over to the other shoreline fish as well, getting some faster drop-off times there. Louis playing, so far, a very, very standard English build. This is very known. You know, you're harassing with the knight, booming behind this. I don't think he hasn't got any villagers, I think, for the effort. Well, it says we see 1 work kill.
And
elephant chasing him after him now.
Yeah, the moment the elephants join the party, it starts to get a little bit harder because, of course, with those elephants, you need to make units to handle them, and they don't respond to you just making a unit here and there. So Louis is going to need to start investing into a significant amount of spears to keep up with this. But you can see B is not looking at, hey, I want to optimize my fishing. I want to be careful about this. I want to get as many fishing boats as possible and get the food out there. You saw how many he had on the shoreline fish. Those are going to go to the deep sea, but with him already having 11, he's going to deplete those pretty quickly, but he knows it's worth it. He needs the advantage on the food, and he needs it now, and that's exactly what he's exploiting here. I say exploit, but this man's going to castle as well, so he's got his 2 elephants on the field, feigning that aggression. Louis investing into more spears, but this could just delay him in his own castle. He's also thinking about it very, very clearly.
Both players very close to castle here. Louis does have those spears you mentioned already on the field, moving them up. Not too many yet, only 4. He doesn't want to overcommit. He really does want to get to castle age first before anything else. But just a couple to kind of help keep the pressure up.
Yeah, those elephants
are so fast.
They are, but just getting those trades off, it feels okay as English. You just have to keep track of it. Luckily, Louis is a man of much APM, so this should not be too much of a monkasteer for him. But you see B already getting dangerously high with the amount of stone he's got in his pocket. So he's clearly cooking himself a fort, and with the houses already in position, he knows that that gold is not going to last forever. It's going to be a pretty nice spot to have that food trickle anyway.
What I like about Louis' build here is if you look at the villager number right now, the worker count's pretty dead even. That's being buoyed, of course, by B having had some fishing ships throughout this whole time. But the nice thing is that the fishing will run out. That's going to be just kind of mostly just gone. There will be the 2 pockets of deep sea fish, but that's not going to provide a lot of resources long term. As we're seeing right here, it's the farms. The fact that Louis, from the outset of this game, knew that this was the plan. He was going to have a long-term food plan. Get on the water, get some to springboard him a little bit, and then immediately pivot. And I do like that a lot here, as we see now the white tower being dropped from Louis. I'm sure B won't be too far behind. Yep, dropping the house learning right as I say that.
And with the white tower in that position, he's got a very similar base to what B's got. B's got his economy set up on water. B has a pretty solid position there for his food trickle that comes in with that fort. But you see the king coming in, trying to get a charge or 2 in. That's great. You just want to make sure that these villages are nice and peppered up for the next raids. But I feel like B, he's gonna make sure that these guys get healed up eventually. Now, House of Learning is still a far ways away, but with the White Tower, we don't see anything in production just yet. He's not feeling too hasty about that. More spears on the way, and boats. He's gonna try to take back this lake, and I'm actually really excited to see that Louis is not just sitting back and giving B the water.
Yeah, he's got the ability to do that, so I'm curious to see how well he'll be able to mount an attack on the water. You mentioned too just a moment ago about peppering the villagers. He's been doing a good job, Louis has, about pestering B. But on the flip side, B has been pretty incredible at, I mean, most guys at this level really are really good at pulling the vills at, keeping them alive throughout these raids as long as possible. And the tricky thing with peppering them is if you get one healer elephant out there, suddenly all that peppering might not actually amount to much. Usually you pepper the villagers and hoping that later raids will finish them off. But if you get them healed in time, that might not be a thing Louis can do. So we'll see if B heals them or not. In the meantime, on the water and on the warpath, Louis sailing across the lake.
And those boats are not going to be something B can scoff at. He does not have the military to actually handle this on water. So that food boost he got initially and the amount of villagers he's got out here with those fishing boats too, he's gonna lose these if he doesn't respond to this. He doesn't have the wood to really handle this just yet, and with these spears he's gonna have a really good answer to anything. A knight in the mix as well. It looks like these archers are going to melt just with the sheer amount of spears. Wololo coming closer too. He does not want this fort to come up. It will come up, but let's see the cost.
He's gonna get some vills. Oh, that was close.
You jinxed it. Suck it in.
I did. I shouldn't have said anything. It looked really good for a moment.
And that's the beauty. The Tuklak is now getting themselves into a spot where they get control of the map. And very standard from the Tuklak dynasty, just slowly getting that trickle forward. But B has been able to reinvest on the water, gets his military ships out, and Louis is the one that kind of stopped. Makes sense. You are fully focused on making sure that attack lands. But now the question is if he is going to be okay with that exchange, or where the next attack point is going to be.
Yeah, the water attack, we didn't get to see too much of it. We see the aftermath here. Clearly, it did not go well for Louis, as he's now completely off the water, save for his one dock remaining now under fire. That other attack, too, on the land, I wouldn't say that exactly went great either. It was okay. It was an okay trade, but that power is up. The keep is up. We do have the Raider Elephants there. Loses one. Nice pickup. A lot of spears here now from Louis. He's up to 19. He'll have over 20 in just a couple seconds.
Now, the amount of spears that you've got, even though B is investing in archers, you just get to go right through them and get to the core of that army, which is the elephants. But now, Louis is the one who's raiding, and guys, we've seen Louis wall in the previous era of Louis. Oh, that market being used very, very actively. You can see B is in a little bit of a panic here, because now with the resources being further and further apart, these little raid groups are really going to pay off. Louis also now getting a few longbows in the mix. He's going to respond to these archers in sword.
B is struggling for food. That is a problem. The fishing's about done. Villagers getting completely harassed here by the king, who snuck into that wall just in time. The tricky thing with this map is that there's not a lot of food close to home outside of the fishing. Once the berries are used up, all the deer are on the far side of the map away from everything near the mountains. And so there's a reason why B moved out to the middle of the map there towards that sacred site. He needs to get some room, needs to buy some space, but most of the food is even further out.
And that space he bought, it gave him access to the stone that he would need to keep getting space, but the problem is there's nothing else that he gets from this. Oh, and another villager pickup. Feels pretty nice here, but the king has to back off for now. You can see the stone deposits just quickly getting depleted here as he's sucking them dry. And with that, he has to ask himself, how am I going to get control of the map to be able to actually do something about this? But this looks like a very aggressive push here by Louis. With 28 spears, he's looking at taking this down pretty fast. But we see that fort, it's going to be able to take a beating here. Now getting a springald in placement, or trying to at least, but the sheer numbers here are way too scary.
Yeah, that fort looks imposing, but it's not really a keep. Wolo coming in here. You can really get this off? Oh, he's gonna... Ooh, that was incredibly close. Archers, thankfully, Louis had just a couple... was able to get some longbows on top of that guy. That would have been really close. Without the longbows, that would have been some wool-load spears.
That was one of the closest Wololos we've seen in a while. My goodness, this man, he was playing it. He tried to play it safe there for a second by attacking, but just decided to commit. And could have been so costly, but did his calculations perfectly. And now the elephant numbers are starting to get scarier and scarier. And I was about to say, with him not having anything in queue, it begs the question of, is he transitioning? Is he thinking about what's next? And that's exactly what he's doing. Now switching to a little bit more of a men-at-arms composition. And of course, this is going to be so necessary with the archer investments that you've seen from your opponent. The thing is that archer investment is not as heavy anymore, as we see it purely being elephants now. And those raider elephants, they look like they're trying to find some blood.
That said, Louis is doing really well economically. He's very, very ahead here at this point in villager count, up to 86 to 56, so up by a solid 30 vills. Militarily, he's also, he's got the numbers, but the value is pretty dang even right now.
And that was the second TC payoff, as you talked about before. Sure, those fishing boats, they did some work at the start, but now it puts B in a spot where he's just asking himself, how do I keep this up? With my opponent having so much food available to them, it is such a difficult feat to just try and keep up with the numbers. As I see that villager running for his life, I lose my voice, feeling panicked for the poor guy, but he does make it out alive, and the spears are in position to protect that tower. And that is the beauty now of English. You're going to expand across the map, and you're going to get that bonus on your units as well with the attacks. But those forts, they do feel kind of scary in the middle, and it's given him quite a bit of map control, but it doesn't feel like something impossible. It feels like, hey, Louis can just get one siege unit and slowly make his way forward. So a huge amount of investment here from B into getting those forts up, and it does give him the map control. But Louis is the kind of player who's going to sit back and play this methodically to just take them down when he feels like it's time.
I love what we see. You can see on the minimap what Louis' thought is. He wants the gold. I was going to say a moment ago that the one thing he doesn't have, he's got the food forever, but the gold is the next big issue here moving forward into the later stages of the game. And you can see right there, he's looking to secure both that 8K gold and the 4K behind it. Additional walls being planned out. We'll see if he can secure those. If he can get on top of those and secure both of those golds, he's going to be in a very good spot moving into a middle late game.
And that is the control that you want to see out of Taklak. You want to see them deny those external resources, but that gold is so difficult to deny when you have a massive army behind it. All those elephants, they're getting dangerously close to the spears. We see the longbows also trying to pepper him up, but it looks like the spears are going to claim their first victim, and that's the problem with the stealth forest. Now a tower coming in from B, he needs to see what's going on here, because the longbow mass is big enough to actually pick off anything that steps too close.
Yeah, the longbows are the real scary thing here. There's no real counter that B has to them at the moment. He's got the elephants, and he's got a couple of archers. Neither of those are enough to deal with the mass that Louis has here. He's got enough spears that the elephants just cannot get close. And the longbows with the extended range and the additional +1, they are just too good to go hand to hand against the regular archers that B has.
Now, with B's control on the water he's got for a while now, you have to ask yourself, does he actually have access to all this food, as those fishing boats are going to start depleting the water as well? The tower going down, Archers trying to fight a very outnumbered fight here. The fort doing good work, but for how long, as these archers are just getting picked off by that superior range of the longbows. Now, as we can see, attack speed trying to be the answer here to try and just reduce, but the army is in position and the elephants are trying to get a flank, and they might make it here on top of the longbows. Problem is just the spear numbers are so scary, but that fort is lasting a lifetime.
So that our vodka was able to look at the skill that it had there, that tech tree a bit upgrade. Big time there, slowing down the attack speed. That's actually what's keeping this thing alive. And now with a quick pull of Vills to heal it, Elephants getting to the choke point. The spear numbers are not what they were. However, this is still a very tough fight under cramped quarters. Longbows just peppering the back line, and that's going to do it. He's going to have to back off from that. It's the longbows that are carrying at this point.
And those longbows just picking off the villagers next. He doesn't even feel the need to go for the military. Ooh, but this could be quite costly. We see that attack speed is just doing the work though. B holding this. The problem is just, even though he sacrificed so many military units into this keep, it doesn't feel like B is gonna be able to get out ahead here. He's got still a ton of elephants in his pocket. He's got a bunch of archers, but the problem is Louis gets to replenish these 2.4k food a minute compared to B's 1k. That's a pretty tough spot, but that's English in a nutshell.
Yeah, that was not a complete rout by Louis, but I would say it was a good trade overall. Picked off some villagers, pushed back, kept B in check right there. Unfortunately for Louis, he couldn't keep going. That fort does do a good job at slowing him down, and it did. The front line kind of collapsed on itself. Louis having to back off a little bit, remass. You kind of just wonder, maybe just one trebuchet or just something to take that out would be really, really effective. Instead, he's going to opt to keep building just more units, which again, gets enough, it'll eventually crack through. But for the time being, he's just expanding the tower network, getting the villagers out there, getting those resources while he can.
Now, with that tower, you have the idea of where the army is moving as well. And that's the beauty of just getting control of this. Now, the elephant's trying to make their way onto the tower because he knows the value of it. And he does get the tower, but a lot of costly elephants going down here as well. The longbows are doing their best at shutting this down, but you can see another fort being pushed. And B needs control. He knows this. With the sacred sites being decapped, he doesn't feel like he has that control he had before. And the problem is, this is just going to get worse and worse as now Louis is looking straight at Imperial. And guys, we've all faced off against an Imperial Age English with unlimited gold. You can deny those resources, but the problem is the resources are in the base and there's nothing you can do about it. I say that. And
sending the elephants seaborne. Man, I just would love to see in real life how like Civ would move an elephant onto a boat like that. Like, you'd have to have some pretty big cranes and winches to get those things on. I love the thought process. BU wants to raid the backside of Louis' base with the elephants, but instead he's going to opt to keep them where they are, send them back to the main force, because what Louis has up here front and center is so much. But behind this, B knows it's coming. Louis is going Imperial Age.
And Wingard Palace is the choice here. I had a question mark here. Of course, the Wingard Palace, so much better. Oh, I want to talk about this, but the spearmen are getting such good damage on these elephants, absolutely melting. But the elephants at the same time getting on top of these longbows, just obliterating what's in front of them. But the difference is Louis is almost pop-capped. And B, he's struggling to even think about something like the Imperial. He's just making units as much as he can, trying to keep up with this. Once this Wingard comes in, it's cheap units. It's a lot of cheap units. So Louis doesn't actually mind throwing away a few of these. He's very happily going to be replacing those with much, much superior units coming out.
This is the benefit of that 2TC play that Louis went for early enough on. He got it up. He's been able to he wasn't rated really much at all this whole time. Outside of the fishing eco he lost, that's about all he's lost, is those 3 fishing ships. His villager production has been unhindered this entire game and has been doubled up, and so we see 126 to 70. That's the difference here, the fact that Louis has just managed to take even trades on the battlefield outside of that. So now with Imperial Age, we're going to see him really pop off, and this game is looking very, very well in hand for Louis.
I was gonna wonder exactly what this man is planning with the units he can get, and footmen being the answer. I am so excited for that. With him going for the enclosures upgrade and getting a few more men-at-arms, you can see that this armored composition, it's something he feels comfortable with, because you handling it means that you have to invest gold. And like we talked about before, access on this map, it does get a little bit difficult as time goes on. He's realized the other fort might be a little bit too hard to take down, but this one doesn't have the same flavor to it, so it will actually be able to get shut down. And now that transport ship, the problem has arrived, and there are a bunch of elephants. Now, there might be a little bit of idle time on the farms, but I feel like Louis has enough in his pocket to just survive.
B, with the military superiority here for the time being in numbers. Tricky thing is, I think Louis' units are going to be better, more veteran than B's are. We'll see if that raid in the back can do enough damage. It's about, can you get enough damage done? The spear's already ready to intercept the elephants. They immediately start going back to the breached part of the wall. Boy, I don't know if that's going to be enough. The front line here, though, looking okay for B. But those longbows, once again, just pestering.
But the pure numbers from B here, he's read the game perfectly, knowing, hey, this is my moment. I need to land the damage. The problem is just the damage he needs to land is significant. If Louis can keep up production, and he is not currently using his wind guard the whole time. He's actually still just producing some of these units, and now finally having their Imperial Age upgrades. The trades are going to feel okay, but the production still takes a while, and B doesn't look like he's stopping. He's spending every drop of gold he has to keep this push going.
Yeah, you can see in the bottom corner of the map, he has both that 8K and 4K. So the gold, almost 2,000 a minute. He's got the resources to keep this up. And these walls, we're seeing where the walls really kind of help give you a speed bump to kind of slow your enemy down, give you time to remass, regroup. English, ever the defensive civ, showing off why that is. Meanwhile, the spears slowly dying, but they have slowed down these elephants quite significantly on the backside. And I just don't know that there's really that much danger here for Louis.
Louis was under duress for a bit here, but again, with time, it is just feeling like B is the one who's throwing everything at this, and Louis is just comfortably being English. Now, these spears are going to be able to clean up an elephant here or there, but this is still a raid that is annoying. It distracts him from what he wants to do, and now sacred sites are captured yet again. Not necessarily going to be the win condition here, but at some point Louis might realize, hey, if I want to take down these forts, I might need to invest in a trebuchet or two. Now with his armored units moving forward, but he's got the crossbows, just not enough to constantly keep this up. Those longbows are going to be able to snipe them when the time comes.
B is just in a tough spot. You can see he's trying to do things the right way. He's trying to get in, trying to raid. It just feels like it's going to be a little too little. This could be a good demo here, though. It's a good number of vills for the effort. That's the kind of damage we would be looking for. The tricky thing is it's still 121 to 79. So even with that, if anything, that might actually help Louis just have more military space.
Finally losing a village or two, and this is that point of the game where you actually just don't mind losing some of them. The elephants, though, ignoring the front line completely, going straight for the longbows, makes a lot of sense. You want to get past those footmen, and they're not going to do the same damage as a bunch of spears. But now with those university upgrades hitting, it is going to be so much sweeter to take these fights, and all of a sudden B's mass just cannot keep up. Now you have Castle Age units against Imperial University upgraded units, which just doesn't hit the same like they did before, and B's numbers are just plummeting.
He's nowhere near Imperial Age himself. He does not have the food income for it. So it feels like the decline is upon us now as we see the first forts down to half health again. I don't know what B can do to salvage this game.
Now, this one might not be for salvaging, this one might just be for vibing. And at this point, to try and read what my opponent's doing as we see him tapping out, he's had enough. But of course, this is Lakeside. This is not something we see that much. And both of these players are not going to be experienced with every civilization on here. So for B, this might have been quite a bit of a surprise to see that, hey, my Tuklak dominance on the water is not going to be able to take down that English 2TC. And Louis just showing us he's back. I'm really excited to see what Louis has in store for us here. But you can see that economy count just telling us the story of a 2TC English player, a story we've all faced on ladder.
Yeah, tale as old as time here. English going 2TC. I like what Louis did with the bit of water. You know, just has a small springboard. He didn't overinvest in it. I think he only had 3 fishing ships at most. It was just enough to kind of keep him at pace and then bounce up. And I really liked that build here on Lakeside. And you mentioned it. I mean, have these guys ever played this matchup on this map before? There's 23 civs in the game, so you do the math as to how many different unique matchups there are on top of every single map, which is fun for us as the viewers, right? Because it means we get a lot more variety these days. But this one, I think Louis did a really good job, had a good game plan, executed it very well. B did a good job early of keeping vills alive, and I like that he went out to get the external pressure. The tricky thing is he just didn't have an answer to the economic scaling that Louis had here. The fishing just wasn't enough.
What I think that Louis learned from this game, though, is I cannot keep suiciding my army into these forts. These forts are actually packing a lot more of a punch than I think any of us expected. And this is, again, something you're not experiencing that much because you know Tuklak is supposed to be good. So you're not going to let it through on any water map. And this is showing us that, say, I might not be as experienced with these forts, but this is the round to try and figure this out. Because with these, you have the round robin set up where these players need to play against every other one in their group too. And they don't just get eliminated from one match. So now is the time also to test, especially when you're at the top and you probably feel pretty comfortable with your group as well.
Yeah, lessons for the future. Maybe one treb would have helped a lot there, but when you win the game, I mean, who are we to critique too hard? But one treb would have helped those, because yeah, the units really did not do a lot into that fort. They kind of just sat there and wasted their time for the most part. That said, I do think the trades against the elephants were very well done. Even against the footmen there, even against the men-at-arms, did a really good job against those elephants, as we see right here. That battle went pretty okay there for Louis.
Louis definitely took away, hey, English, very much viable. Oh, I want to see that shot. That was, like you said, oh, beautiful shot. Getting that demo there, it is just a little bit too late. It feels like there had to be an attack, some point where Louis could have been broken, but B just was not able to amass those numbers to try and get through that, that disgusting game. I say ooh because in front of us, guys, we see a little bit of Rus, and I heard recently that Rus hasn't had the glory it used to, but head to head between these two, we can see that there's a little bit of an advantage here for Louis. But keep in mind, Louis has been on a, 5-month break? So this is not the same Louis that B is facing, and this is also not the same B. This B just won an S-tier tournament. This is a very different man. He also looks very different in person. Like an adult now. Here he's just a young little lad.
Look at the game. Looking at the game count there, that's actually my takeaway is that, man, these guys are pretty neck and neck all time. I mean, 45%. I mean, that's a pretty even win rate. I'm impressed. These guys have played a lot against each other and have taken pretty close to even numbers against each other. We move on though to Coastal Cliffs. Rus against Ayyubids. I like this map a lot.
I love it because it's just Dry Arabia smaller and forcing action on you. And with Ayyubids, they've gotten some adjustments that I'm really excited to see. But Rus has been a very big safety pick on this map anyway. Macedonians, you're not getting the chance to play that. There's no chance. And we see time and time again, people are just vetoing that bad boy out of existence. But Ayyubids also pretty standard pick on the map. Nothing too surprising.
I'm not surprised to see Japanese and Macedonian sniped, and I'm excited to see Rus and Ayyubids. I think both these civs actually are pretty good on Coastal Cliffs. I enjoy both. A shorter proximity, smaller map, a little more congested. Should be fun. I'm excited to see. I don't actually know which I prefer in this matchup, to be honest. This is one of those ones where I feel like either way, it's a pretty okay matchup. So I'm excited to see what Louis brings, because I'm excited to see what B has. We got 10 seconds before we dive in. You guys are watching the Elite Classic 4. Hosted by EGC. That's Wham, and I'm Soccerton. We've got game 1 in the books, and we go on to game number 2. Here on Coastal Cliffs, Louis in the magenta. Here on the north side, playing as Ayyubids, and on the south side in the green, B playing Rus. Going immediately with the 2 hunting cabin open.
What a surprise! A Taylor's all this time getting our hunting cabins out, free gold all around. But what is important here is, with Rus, you still have a civilization that likes going for pro scouts. So, this map, you're playing against a guy who is unpredictable. Both ways, actually. I was about to say Louis being unpredictable, but I say this with B standing there right next to him. It's a difficult spot for you to be in, because you know I'm going to need access to food. This is not something that is too easy anyway. And those deer packs, both of them being very much forward, it means that you can get shut down pretty quickly. If Louis decides to play an aggressive game, it's something that he can get control of and deny. At the same time, B just has to get control of one side, right? So you do have an issue with the food here. And sure, you get enough sheep to outlast that early stage of the game, but there's a lot of movement usually out for you. But looking at the spawns here, it does feel like B is in an okay position with those wood lines being quite protective.
I want to make a small little note about those hunting cabins. It was kind of fun to see when they were placed down by B. He also has, you can see there's a sheep on each one of them. So with the new sheep's distributions, you have more sheep around your town center. This play is actually, that's a small buff to this play. And that now those villagers can just immediately go right onto the food.
And players have been showing us time and time again, you need to put those sheep in position and make sure that you don't get any idle time from your vills. Making sure they don't walk around too much. a pretty stable move of anyone, but we see logistics coming out, and I'm so happy with seeing good old logistics, because the culture wing other way, it has been quite cheap to get, which means you get a pretty fast age up, but the value of those dervishes that come out, it gives you the ability to make sure you have feudal age presence. You can have a fast castle if you felt like it, but logistics just set the pace of the game. And this is the beauty of A-Bits. You dictate what happens next. B, he's the one who's going to need to adjust his playstyle to whatever Louis puts on offer.
I feel like I say this a lot about AUBIDs with Culture Wing, and I say this kind of a lot about a lot of civs. Every age up has an opportunity cost of what you miss out on by not going for something else, right? But each age up also has a floor and a ceiling of value you can get out of it. The cool thing about Culture Wing, about getting those dervishes early, is that technically the ceiling for how much value they can give you is infinite. If they continue to heal units and to do things productively for you, they are going to give you resources back infinitely. You can get as much value as you can squeeze out of them. The floor is that they both get shot early and die, and then you get nothing outside of just moving up to the next stage. But the ceiling, though, is the sky is the limit, and I really love that about Logistics Wing in particular.
And B doesn't really have something that he can use to snipe these out too easily, but he's going onto the gold here, and I haven't seen a Rus go for gold in a very long time. I'm actually quite happy to see that. It feels refreshing to see a Rus player going this deep for a resource they get for free. Now, of course, this would mean that he doesn't... Ooh, and he's just getting one load of it. Is this intentional? It has to be. He's cooking, guys. I just don't know what he's cooking.
He split them on the way back, too, so he sent a couple more back out and kept a couple back at home under the town center. So he's got something very intentional in mind.
And
it does feel weird, though, to see Rus mining gold within 10 minutes of the game. Just feels very odd. He's keeping 3 on there, though.
And not putting down a mining camp, he's very specific about it. He's going for a second TC. He's going for a second TC. Oh my goodness. What a day to be alive. This is going to be a Rus strategy we haven't seen in a while. But of course, the stone has been bought. You only need 2 tickets to make this complete. And just like that, we get it right on top of the deer, pretty close to the bow as well.
And this we're seeing because of the TC changes and the cost reduction. That makes this a viable play now. I mean, whether or not it works and he wins the game, I mean, that's to be seen. But this build, making this happen at this time, is possible now without having to go get the stone. I mean, he's able to trade, like I said, trade the tickets. There's less stone cost, so you don't need to do that as much. It works out, math does. Now we have a second town center. It feels this is a very strange and very new looking Rus 2TC build. I mean, usually back in the day, we used to see the Kremlin a lot do that with the 2TC to keep them safe. Here we're seeing a bit of a different way about it. Kind of fun to see.
I'm very impressed with the fact that B has decided to go this way, though, because you're playing against AUBIDs that has the ability to go fast castle. You are aware they're going fast castle, and that second TC is very far out. It's going to take a while to pay off, and you don't really have anything that can handle his units in early castle. So Louis now aging up, and I'm assuming we'll get a little bit of military wing here unless he wants to eco it up, making sure that he stays up to level with those vills. But Louis doesn't strike me as that kind of guy. So industry wing, oh, never mind. Yeah, of course. Okay, so of course with the industry wing, you just get so many resources and you get that momentum going, you get the production buildings you need, and you start pumping out as many units as you need. But at the same time, I'm just gonna call something unorthodox. What if this is an industry wing and you just get yourself a TC as well? You have the resources for it.
There's no... Why would he do that? There's no... I mean, maybe Louis sees it and goes... If Louis sees a second TC, as an AUBIDs player, you go, all right, game on. Like, I'm just gonna fast castle rush that. Like, there's no reason not to. I mean, it'd be very spicy, to take a phrase you like to use. It'd be very spicy if he went for a TC of his own. I don't see it happening. I'll be a very surprised person if Louis decides to go for a second town center, as opposed to just going full aggression here.
And now with the tower he's getting on gold, you can see he wants to keep this gold safe for as long as possible. This woman, she's dreaming, guys, and she is hoping for the beauty of spicy plays. But that outpost here, a little bit of a surprise to me. because you know you're not up against aggression. You built this because you know you're gonna need it. Now, why does he need it? What is he expecting here from B? Just getting a lot of nitrates? Is he going to need to get all his attention focused on one spot so he doesn't need to worry about those gold vills? I want to see what Louis is cooking, and I'm ready for it. But we do see that B is already gearing himself up to start making knights, getting a wheelbarrow in here too, telling us that he knows he's going to need to run and stay alive in a lot of cases.
TC is up. I do, as far as TC placements, there's a ton of food. Not only the deer pack, but also the boar, which you can see the villagers on right now. A lot of food. I do love that he's got the walls. And, you know, Roos does have better walls than everyone else. So, at least in this age, as far as wooden walls go, they're the best. So, they'll hold up a lot better than, you know, normal palisade walls will. I'm curious how much more time that's going to realistically buy B to make this town center pay off and to stay alive. Meanwhile, the dervishes getting the value they were bought for, grabbing the relics right now. There's 4 available to Louis. He's got the first one in hand. There's 3 more on the map that aren't being walled in by B. We'll see how many he can get. Realistically, he should be able to get all 4 of those. Actually, does he already have one in hand? He's already got one. Where's the 5th?
Yeah, the next one.
4.
The next one should be in the handle. Oh, yeah, there it goes. There it goes. Straight on the way. What's interesting to me is this wall. This wall does not protect that little relic, and B is going to need something to get that going. High Trader's coming out. No surprises here. Not in the juiciest spot, but also in a little bit of a vulnerable spot once those raids start on coming. And we see that that's a significant amount of camel riders already underway. Louis sitting on his 275 stone in the bank. Still keeping his options open here, but of course, with the amount of aggression that we see, this man, he keeps on producing. He's going to go and try to do some damage. But the longer he gives B, the quicker this snowballs. I say that, but at the same time, you have all the relics in the world. You're probably not that scared of much.
This is an interesting game. I don't hate the walls that Louis has built. I wonder if he could have foregone those for the time being to get some more units on the field and be a little more aggressive to start. Instead, though, like you mentioned, grabbing the relics, so trying to keep pace with the 2TC with just an influx of gold instead. He does have map control mostly, but again, B's done a good job of carving out his half of the map, or rather maybe his third of the map. So now that those palisades are up, he's quite secure, and these camel lancers, look, you can see it's quite the speed bump. It's going to take some time for them to burn through.
And the beauty of the Roos walls, right? Those things just reinforced into oblivion. You are going to need a lot more to take this down, but Louis, he's investing even more into that. Now, what I love to see is the use of the stone that Louis actually went for. He just wanted to get himself in placements, making sure that this is safe. But if we could take a quick look at the relic counter to see what this is, but it's going to be very straightforward all the way. Yeah, 5 relics on the way now. Getting the sacred sites as well. I don't think Louis is too scared. It feels like he knows that this second TC is going to take a while. He's got the camel advantage. He's not too worried about a bunch of knights who's going to be rushing into him. But the crossbows from B, they might make this a little bit harder.
I like the crossbow call coming from B. Camel Lancer's ever a thorn in anyone who tries to go against a Ubids. See the Lancer there from B. Trying to take a piece at that dervish. He's not going to be able to do anything here. In fact, he might go down. And does.
Poor knight. B making himself that single knight, trying to get around, feign some aggression in it. But now he's got making the counter units of the camels. And you have to wonder, is Louis actually going to put a few desert raiders in here? See, this is something that's pretty interesting where we see some of the top players just mixing in some units to make it a little bit harder to micro and target fire the ones that you actually need to fire. But he's full on just making sure that this is going to be a Lancer army. And I'm wondering what his plan is. What is the timing here? What is the point we want to land and end the lives of our opponent? Because these guys are not able to break through.
Yeah, that palisade wall is just too much for this group of Lancers to get in. The camels just can't push through. And again, I said that earlier, like, Roos has the best palisades in the game, and we're seeing that on full display here. Really has bought B time to get some economic leverage against Louis. Now, I say that, again, we got to keep in mind those 5 relics and now 2 sacred sites. With the timers now ticking down, it's only 9 minutes to go, so nothing too scary yet, but I'm thinking of the gold influx that Louis is getting. Right now, he's got nobody on gold, and look at his gold income right now. Close to 800.
Soccerton, I want you to notice that there's something that Louis did, and we may have predicted it earlier. I'm very surprised it came out a bit later, but he went for that second TC after all. Inspiration from the stone he got for free, right? That's the beauty of the industry. When he's like, I've got all of this, might as well use it, right?
Yeah, once it was obvious that he wasn't able to just, push and be aggressive all the way in, once the timing wasn't really there, might as well save a little bit, get the extra TC. Now the scaling that B's doing is really gone, and now, even a couple minutes here, with the relics in hand especially, I do like where Louis is at. Now, B is not out of this by any long shot. He's got a pretty good mass of crossbows. I am a little concerned about those for Louis. 18 on the field, 3 more coming in with a lot of spears to boot. This is an army handcrafted to destroy one single type of unit, and that is those Camel Lancers.
And Louis finally respecting this in a way. He's saying, okay, I'm going to need a handful of archers to deal with this, but B is already ahead of it, making sure that those men-at-arms are going to make this so much harder to do. Louis is going to need to use every bit of APM he's got inside of him and get sniping perfectly, because those men-at-arms, it's just the problem of you having to move your army, and the moment you do and you re-click, you easily just start firing at that front line, which is just going to be a bunch of tanky men-at-arms that don't take much damage, with the +2 range defense coming into. He is not looking at losing, and B's army is so scary. I'm very worried here for Louis.
I was going to say, I'm getting, as a Ubid's main and as a Ubid player, I'm getting a sinking feeling in my stomach. Ubid's is so tempo focused and so good on taking the swings when you have them. I'm worried that Louis didn't really capitalize hard enough on aggression when he went into Castle Age, and I'm really worried that this army from B is going to be very, very dangerous and cost Louis quite a bit. As we see here, taking out the forward food situation. Once a Ubid loses food, things get sideways pretty quick, and he's trying to force a counter raid, trying to get onto the deer here over by B's side, but again, those palisade walls, most things behind the wall still safe. I'm a little, if I were a Ubid's player, I'd be feeling a little nervous right now.
And B is not looking at slowing down here. I love the fact that he's using this melee army to burn down what he can and put that presence already in the base, because the crossbows are enough to deal with what Louis has on offer, which is just those camel lancers. And you can see they need to back off, because if you're trying to respond to the spears, you're going to need to do it with those archers you've got in your base, and it does get spotted here. The problem is just there's so many, and they can attack multiple points at the same time. Crossbows can move freely, and this is the position you don't want to put your opponent in, where he doesn't need to reinforce his ranged units with the melee ones.
Louis making some horsemen to try and counter some of those crossbows, but I'm worried the numbers just don't match up. 31 crossbows more on the way, along with 24 spears. I don't think horsemen is really gonna, I mean, it would be an answer to crossbowmen, but I don't know that it's an answer here in this situation with the comp overall that B has.
Now, the numbers are starting to look a little bit more even, but we all have to consider this is B with an economy that's completely set up. He's got himself a food income. Louis is slowly trying to get there, but you can see the difference between these two. And 56 on food, 64 on food. B is, again, playing a similar game to what he did last game. He's putting everything on there, and he's trying to make as much as he can and hit the timing here. The difference this one is he's got the timing on his side.
Was that second TC by Louis a mistake, do you think? Should he have just gone for tempo, gone for more aggression?
I don't think anything
I'm wondering if that might be the case.
I don't think anything...
That's good point.
Yeah, this is a calculated one where you ask yourself, hey, am I able to actually end off? Woolalaw coming in, he does back off in time, as is B. Not a man who's going to be taking any risks like these, but it does cap that gold income for a little while. It does look like the Lancers are going to get a good connection, but it's against a bunch of crossbows. The horsemen in the mix, though, they are doing an amazing job here, and it looks like Louis, with those men-at-arms at the front, he is struggling to work through them, though.
Spears in the back are able to hold, and that cavalry charge dies quickly. Can't even get the dervish to grab the relic. As this feels like the game right here, and it feels like B has broken through. there's just not enough military units for Louis, and there's nowhere for him to remass. He's trying to kite this as best he can, but you can only kite so far.
And the food income is telling us the story of a man with replenishing value and one without. A 700 food per minute coming in for Louis is not going to be enough to keep this up, and B's onslaught is not stopping. Now getting horse archers as a later stage unit, which I thought I would never see in my life. I think we're going to be putting that on the bingo for the later weeks so that we can see if this ever happens again. But yeah, getting horse archers at this point, it feels so strange, but it makes sense. You want the mobility, you want to go shut down the farms, you want to keep this aggression going, and you want that mobility most importantly.
B now just rampaging through the base. I mean, there's nothing to stop him. There's no military units really by Louis at this point. Losing Vills. This game is pretty decisively won by B. It was an interesting build that he had, going for 2 town centers as early as he did. Those palisade walls that he built as the Rus, massively important, and I think that bought him plenty of time. Thankfully for him, Louis didn't really push the issue too hard, and given some time, B just, I feel like, ballooned in the background with a really good boom, and then was able to push out with this really good mass. I mean, crossbows and spears against camel lancers is you'll take that as the Rus every day.
And this onslaught is just not going to stop. Louis thinking about what's next, but at the same time still making a horse. He wants to try land an attack while he can, getting the villagers inside the TCs, ensuring that he's firing. Oh, never mind. It's capped. There we go. Never mind. He's had enough. See, this is where you sit and you're like, okay, I just need one good attack because you're hoping your opponent runs out of firepower. But B was nowhere near running out of firepower. He definitely was in the driver's seat here, and I'm really happy to see that B was the one dictating the pace. He built the walls, he got himself in a safer position, and Louis didn't really land with his timing of the castle.
Yeah, by the time he got into castle and by the time he had any military and had it over there, you can see the walls by that second town center. It was a risky town center. It really was. It was out away from the main base. It was up ahead. But there was a ton of food there. It had the boar, had the deer, had the wood. Just a lot of resources for B to swallow up. He just had to make sure it was safe. He did that, and it propelled him to the win.
And I love the switch into the horsemen. It was just a little bit too late for him here, investing that much into the camel lancers. You can see how quickly they melted, but it shows you how fast B is. This man was microing, making sure that the crossbows can target fire whatever they need to here. And the archers, they were doing their best at like attack moving, but those men-at-arms in the mix just messed this up so much. The crossbows did their best, but again, with the archers, you need to be able to focus fire the things that are going to slow you down, and there was just too much to slow him down. There was nothing was right to fire. Everything was under duress. But we do have our next matchup already, and we do see that about to start in 5 minutes. So it gives us a little bit more time to go through the rest of the draft before we actually dive into this matchup. What I'm excited about is the fact that we're seeing French being such a high priority pick. Now, it hasn't been picked, and I'm kind of surprised not to see it on Baldland, because French is something that people usually default to as well, especially when you have such an open map where they completely flourish on. But saving that for Aleppany or Dry Arabia, nothing to scoff at.
Yeah, so that's a civ that you can pick almost anywhere. All 3 of those maps would be good. Instead, we get Baldland without French. We get Chinese, and we get the Golden Horde. What do you make of the matchup? Which do you prefer?
Well, the matchup is one. Socket, the fact that Lancaster was picked, what year are we in? But this, an era before nerfs. I remember the days when Lancaster was viable, and the fact that he sniped it. Baldland, yeah. That was the question. So he says China. So the matchup, China being led through, also refreshing. We've seen China getting banned for so many, I would say, years at this point. But now China being led through the House of Lancaster, he's got to feel confident about something. Louis says, I'm playing against China, so I'm doing a home nationality. So I have the advantage.
If only it worked that way, right? I play. I don't. I guess I could claim English, but when I play English, I don't get any boost really. Besides English being a little easier to play, but you know, only it worked that way. Yeah, Bald Land. I mean, do we see? I mean, I would assume then Chinese goes for like a pro scouts play potentially. That's very viable with the deer packs forward. How do we see Louis respond to that? Do you think?
So Bald Land with Golden Horde, we just see a lot of movement out onto the deer from the Golden Horde pretty easily. Now, when you're up against China, you also don't have a civilization and there's a Dark Age presence that you need to be aware of. You have some time, usually, to be able to respond to the tempo. And I think this is why Golden Horde might be such a good pick in a lot of cases. Golden Horde, they have a pretty safe food transition for themselves as well. But on Bald Land, we don't see them going for pro scouts, but they are pretty decent at the 9 pro scouts. When with your age up, you get a unit that's already going to deal with scouts. It forces your opponent to already invest in something other than just being lazy and going for pro scouts for free. So you have a Khan, you get a few Tor goods in the mix too, you can shut down most, which forces your opponent to already go for spears. So now you're already just naturally delaying that benefit of the pro scouts that you would like to see.
There you guys have it. I don't think I could put that in any better words than you just did. So that's kind of what I expect to see in this map too, is I expect to see Chinese go for the pro scouts. I expect Tugalok to try to deny that, do exactly what you said. With these two players, you never know. They could always throw a monkey wrench into the situation and mix things up a lot. But usually the meta is what it is, and that's kind of what we expect to see. I do think it's interesting looking at this map and looking at the maps around. I think Louis' draft looks really good, just overall. I mean, just if we want to take a broader view of this, I mean, having Zhu Shi as well would have worked really well on this map. Zhu Shi could also work pretty well on Lipany. He's got French, which we said could work on all 3 of these. He's got Japanese in the back, which, I mean, would have been great for something like Lakeside. But he wanted to pick it here as well, and on Coastal Cliffs. So obviously there's something about Japanese that Louis really likes. It's a really good civ. I like his draft. I mean, I don't dislike Bees either. I'm not as huge a fan of JD, but I don't hate his. I do think I like Louis' draft just a little bit more, though.
And the difference comes in here with the recent activity as well. B feels comfortable overwhelming his opponent, especially in this scenario where he knows Louis has been out of action for a little bit. JD is a civ that just favors those who can constantly force fights. And honestly, if you are going to put someone on a tier list of forcing fights and putting action on a map, you'll see Vortex and B all the way up there. And that's what I think is strong about B's draft here for him. It plays into his playstyle. Louis, on the other hand, he does have Japan that is just going to get perma sniped, as we've seen time and time again. Players are still saying that Japan is just in a good enough spot that they don't want to let it through. It feels like if Malians gets let through, you're always going to see it sniped. So Macedonians are the same. We have civilizations that just don't get any airtime. But guys, let's go see what the bald men on the bald land are going to be offering us, as these two Chads are going to be ready to bring us the action on a disgustingly open map. Which, honestly, when I'm playing against someone, it's disgustingly open, Soccer. The wood lines are so tiny. You chop, chop, chop. Your wood's gone. All of a sudden, you have a Torgood and a Keshik and so much more in your wood line. Or on the Chinese side, you just have Lancers. That's the issue. This map is open. It's open for harassment a little bit later on. The thing is, there's not a lot of time.
It makes for really good TV. It makes for really good TV. And we're on EGC TV watching the Elite Classic 4. It's a tied series, 1-1. Louis is the Golden Horde, notably the Magenta Golden Horde. And then B in the green Chinese on the eastern side. We've got a very disgustingly open map. You know, your disgusting map, Women, might be someone else's beautiful, cherished land. You know, just saying.
You're trying to get me not to discriminate against this monstrosity of a raider map.
I really enjoy casting this map, if you can't tell. I might agree with you. Playing it might be a different story, but I don't think it's a bad map. It is just very... It leads to some very hyper-aggressive plays, given how difficult it is to wall up and turtle. But for the viewers, I think that's a bit of a win.
it favors the bold. And both of these men, while not bald in hairline, definitely bald as far as it goes when it comes to deciding what to do in game. Now, we have a pretty standard Dark Age, guys. We see Dark Age action left, right, and center with scouts picking up sheep, and that's it. They just pick up sheep and nothing else crazy happening here for us. Now, like I said before, I can already tell that this is not something that we might see too crazy of a shenanigan coming out for B, because of course you want to get the deer, you need to secure your food, you're China, you're not going to want to sit in your base for too long and go and rely on sheep or berries. You need to bring the food to you, especially when you're up against the Golden Horde. Golden Horde, they have a great map presence, they just need a few minutes to get going. So definitely, and aging up with 5 is actually a significant amount of investment already. This man wants those Imperial officials and he wants them now.
Yeah, especially with the faster build speed. Look at that thing just zoot up. Wow. And there it is. That was very quick. The Khan and Torguds. Is anyone surprised to see that one picked? Because I'm sure not. It'll be in about 90 seconds.
Now, with Khan and Torguds coming out, you have a lot of time to respond in swords, and that's the tough part when you're playing against China. You don't want to give them too much time, but you just don't have a clear choice here. I want to just comment on the fact that we have 8 on food for B still, and this is usually not the split you expect to see for someone who might be rushing up to getting a pro scout situation. Now, of course, you do need a lot of food for the scouts. That's great, but it still feels like, hey, maybe I'm reading this build wrong, but we'll see in a moment. He does re-rally a few onto wood extra just to get what he needs, but pretty standard, keeping those 2 on gold just to make sure that you have the right amount before those Imperial officials do the real work.
I really like what we see here from Louis. He's thinking the same thing we are. Scouts are going to be coming out. Or at least they should be if the meta holds true. So let me just tower up the forward deer right now and just get that a little more secure early.
And going for the very far out forward deer, that is a pretty bold move, because now you're denying a full pack, but it's so far out. So with 2, this investment, it makes sense. You're going to be able to deny, but at the same time, you have to be careful. Now the stable coming out, and you're going to start to see the scouts streaming in, being able to get the deer they want. There's still free access to 3 of those deer packs, and there's also a bunch of tiny ones in the mix too.
Yeah, this map has a lot of deer. A lot of food to be had. It's just not, you just got to go bring it home because it's not safe to go out. We do see starting out with a horseman for the scout. We do see wheelbarrow coming out. We have not seen pro scouts click. That's an interesting choice. Is he going to go, is he just getting wheelbarrow first? Is that standard?
I feel like I've cursed it, Socketen. I think I've cursed it.
Like,
the fact, he might just be respecting the fact that, hey, this is the Golden Horde, I need to do damage to it, and goes and responds. That's wonderful.
That's 2 different upgrades he's getting outside of pro scouts, and it looked, for all the world, it looks like it's going to be a pro scout build. Maybe he's just delaying it a little bit, knowing that he's got to respect the early fighting.
And early units is something China can very easily do with supervision, with the little bit of extra trickle you get from making sure that you supervise. You do get that extra bit of drop off, but the Torguds are going to be joining that count pretty soon, and a barracks is the answer here, and this is natural. You know you're going to play against, you're going to play against a lot of horses, so you need that barracks, but barracks already coming out for Louis as well. As he sees those horses, he knows he needs to respond in sort, and he's got access to the deer. That feels pretty good, but with your opponent having this many horses already, and your wood line already getting thinner, this might get a little bit dangerous for Louis. I feel like the B playstyle is going to come in clutch here, with shutdowns pretty easily being done.
I'm like fascinated by this build, because if you were playing against it and you know kind of what the meta has been, you would see this initially and just read pro scouts, pro scouts, pro scouts, and instead you're getting a lot of horses. And the funny thing is pro scouts could still happen. It might just be delayed. And I think B has read this very, very well, because Louis' game plan seemed to be deny the pro scouts, go out on the deer early, get some units out, and B, kind of looking at that, taking it in hand and saying, okay, how do I play around that? It's fun to see the cyclical outmaneuvering that each player has for each other here.
Yeah, now you've got your opponent to already invest in so much more outside their base. Like I said, with that tower being this far out, that's a significant investment that is quite unsafe. So when you get sheer numbers, you can shut this down if needed. The thing is, you can see Louis is responding to the units he sees. He knows that he needs to do something about it. Getting a few Karash in here to increase that armor too. The horses, though, the mobility is unmatched, and these bad boys are just going to be running around trying to keep the attention of Louis engaged. But Louis does not take the bait. He's going to put it in the positions that actually matter and trying to protect that uwu for as long as possible.
There's the pro scouts coming in now for B. So like we were kind of saying, it is a pro scouts game, but just respecting the early pressure that Louis has. So now able to grab some, seeding kind of that one pack. That one pack is basically just Louis', which is a good win for him. Now it's on B to make the most of the other deer packs that he has access to. And the nice thing about having this fighting force of horsemen now is he can, because it's such an open map, he can just go around and raid. Sacrifices the scout there to get the other ones away.
And you see the amount of scouts we've got now, right? So that delayed pro scout definitely on the mind. And going to be starting to keep this army going, because you're getting to the point where you've depleted the food that you have access to. So you're either going to need to move out, or you're going to need to go and get them. And with 6 scouts, he is looking to bring those deer back at the speed of light. So delayed pro scouts, the name of the game, and he needs this food yesterday, because Louis' numbers are starting to get scary, and he's been out here on the deer for quite some time now. Now those horses are going to be loving the dive when they need to.
And they're heading now straight towards the very vulnerable scouts. This could be really bad here for B. He does not have anything to contest this. These guys are going to come right in. He's going to have to drop the carcasses and run. It's time to go. Yep, we see dropping and running immediately. Just cannot stand and fight that.
Now, dropping
no
these
units in the vicinity.
It just means that he needs to focus a little bit more on picking them up a little bit later. Sure, he's still going to have a lot of access, but it also denies the food trickle that he needs to keep this army amassing. And with his investment into archers, sure, these guys are quite cheap on food, but they're not going to do too well against this horse composition you're up against.
You can see Louis very, very hell-bent on not letting too many of those carcasses go. We do see the spears now from B stepping forward, trying to defend those scouts. Meanwhile, fight down towards the center of the map. A lot of numbers for Louis, but some reinforcements from B as well. The archers pushing forward, trying to pick off those spears.
The problem is that's going to be a +1 army. Ooh, especially with the archers from Louis. He wants to handle this, but the problem is the numbers are there. And horses, 4 legs, they just run a little bit faster. They do get on top, but luckily not a lot of damage here coming from the Torguds. So these archers will not all die, but they do need to back off for the time being. Now, Louis also has to ask himself, how do I keep this momentum going? B, ooh, almost picking up that Khan, and that would have been a pretty big one to also get here, but a bunch of spears are out of position, and now B is going to be very much under duress when this army lands at his base.
I gotta say, I really like what both players have been doing today. Both players with a win, looking to take the edge in this series. I like where Louis is at. B's definitely on the back foot here, and he's playing defensively. He's trying to secure the food. Louis definitely has I don't want to say not necessarily the advantage, but he is definitely in the driver's seat right now. He is dictating the tempo of this game.
Now, the army doesn't look like it's slowing down, as Louis is spending every bit of resource he has into getting more. +1 range defense coming in as he sees a lot of investment into the archers, but the archers are expensive, not in resources, but in wood lines. So your wood lines are going to get chopped through pretty quickly, and that usually becomes an issue here when you are up against an opponent with horses. But as we can see him pulling off completely, he's thinking about castle though. You could see the food and the gold now stacking. The problem is just he wants to go castle, but does he have the food for this? You hit castle. Is it castle into GG, or is it castle into I have enough to be able to do something about this? But with this horse army, he's getting a little bit of idle time. He's keeping the attention of Louis. He forces Louis to respond, and the response is pushing forward.
Oh, that's not the response he wanted. He really wanted this mass to back up. Instead, it pushes forward. I think Louis can kind of smell the thought process of what's going on. He can just feel the castle is coming in soon, trying to get some damage while he can. And it's really hard to want to press that castle age button when you've got a full army standing at your gates.
Oh, and you can see this tower is not hitting too hard, but the archers also sacrificing quite a bit of them under there. Now an Imperial official going down is actually massive, because that man, he probably had his pockets full of tax money. So now with the horses, it does force Louis to back off, but he's also not in a position to age up himself anytime soon. So he needs to keep this pressure up and running. Otherwise, B can find a way to just snowball with that with the castle upgrades that can come from all this huge amount of archers that he's got here at the back too. Now he doesn't have the gold for this though, so he is going to need to find some, and goes to the back without Louis' response.
When it is absolutely imperative that B does not lose his army right now. He has to let it stay alive. He cannot afford to replace it at this point when he's also trying to get upgrades in. This is not a fight he even wants to be taking, but when you've got an army right on your home TC, what can you do? He has to take the engagement and hope for the best.
The problem is palace guards are in queue as well. They're just going to take a while. One lancer following suit, and no upgrades for these existing units, as he knows that all of these guys are probably going to bite the dust. But this is still a significant investment from Louis to dive this deep. Oh, and you see a few of the carcasses being dragged all the way to the TC. But the archer numbers, they've picked up a significant amount of kills here. And the Torgood's still doing work, but slowly but surely all these units are going to get cleaned up. They just need to do enough damage to make this worth it.
I don't know that they have. They've only gotten 5. Overall, Louis only has 5 villager kills so far. I don't think that's enough. And this is going to slow B down quite a bit. He's got to now replace that army. The good thing for him, though, is that his opponent also washed his entire army in that engagement. And he hasn't lost too much economic value. B has not fallen behind here. There is a remask happening now from Louis. He's going to try and get another group together. But overall, that actually worked out okay for B. If he could just get his feet back under him, get another military army out there, get some castle age upgrades. Louis is nowhere near castle. In fact, has 0 gold coming in at all. Everything is food and wood.
And I love this from B. He kept his cool and he went to the other gold, just slowly getting that trickle to really do the work. The TC firing away really just cleaned up all these light units that tried to be a little bit too greedy. And now the deer constantly coming into the base is just going to mean that he's not going to have a worry in the world. Now, with these horses, he's just trying to get more and more idle time from Louis to slow him down even more, because nothing Louis can make is going to be handling those lancers that will be joining the party pretty soon. You can get a bunch of palace guards in the mix, and of course that is going to be quite nice, especially when you know your opponent is going for spears. But why? When you've got the mobility and you can just outmass and outperform, especially with the unlimited food that you have available.
B still trying to remass in military. He's got 20 units. Louis kind of walking back and forth. Has a pretty good sized army already again, back up to 30. That push was just super scary into B's base, and you can see how much it slowed him down. He does not have a standing army. He's got a couple of small raiding parties. Hasn't really gotten any value for it. We see a lot of the walls that Louis has trying to secure his side of the base. Right now, Louis was looking for a really good punch. He dove in because he saw the notification saying that B had aged up, and he knew that he had a window to inflict some damage. I don't know if he got a whole lot of damage. They just kind of traded to militaries. Now, with B, with Lancers on the field, this is going to look a little different.
And he's trying to let these Torgoods do a little bit of that tanking, because sure, they are tanky. The problem is just these are veteran units. I say veteran, but the archers are still feudal age variety. But that single palace guard just providing a little bit of front line there as he's peppering away at every unit. But B is also not in the greatest spot with constantly producing. He's got the deer available to him, The problem is just he's got some pressure under the TC2. And I am so impressed with the fact that Louis reads this game and he says, the calculations are done. I can take this. I can keep staying in feudal and try to fight this. He has not touched that gold since. He still believes in this composition, even with the Castle Age army.
It'll only work for so long, though. Right now, the number's in his favor, and that's why. If B ever gets a size, once B gets up to mass and scales this army up that he has, the composition will start to do a lot more damage. Those Lancers now up to 10 of them, 3 more in the queue. That's kind of what B is slowly building on. You'll see, be very careful with these Lancers. Not going to overcommit them. He knows that that is the heart of his Castle Age army.
And those archers are doing such a good job of picking off the spears, because now the numbers are starting to get a little bit scarier. But he plays it safe, pulls under the TC, and again lets the TC do the work. And I respect this so much about B. He knows I cannot take the fight out in the open. He's still got the numbers. I need to take it under a position where I have a little bit of an advantage. Beautiful play here by Louis, though. He is just stutter stepping back and forth, and I love this. B is just feeling confident enough. Louis completely tunnel visioning, like we saw in the gold earlier. He doesn't deny where the resources are. He's just attacking into the base, losing units. And it feels like this is maybe something Louis is doing just because of the break he's taken. But this is not the Louis I'm used to seeing.
Well, and I think part of it too is he knows that this military mass is a problem, and once he backs off and it starts ballooning, it's going to be insurmountable. We see now some Lancers in the back line picking off some villagers too. So now B starting to get back there and hit the outside resources of Louis. Louis still has a good sized mass, but again, B is just continuing to make more Lancers, up to 15. He'll have 20 in a bit. Making a pretty good engagement here. Knights and Lancers wrapping around. There's still a good number of spears in the mix, though, but the archers behind doing a lot of work for B, even though they're slowly getting picked off. The Lancers are going to get through the front line, and now the archers completely exposed. The Lancers have free reign. Just go through here in a second. With more reinforcements coming in, this is not a good fight for Louis.
This was rock, paper, scissors, and both of them had the rocks, they had the paper, they had the scissors. The problem was, it was not a rock, it was a boulder, and this came in swinging. B cleaning up almost everything here. Louis going on that goal to get what he needed, but the problem is, even if he does manage to find a way to age up, he has 2 minutes before he gets there. So this is not something that he can sustain. Louis now just in an impossible spot to try and hold this. He took that fight thinking, maybe if I just micro it perfectly, and honestly it looked like it was going well enough for a while, but B also able to divide his focus and make sure he hits where it hurts. Now those Lancer numbers, 20 Lancers, they don't care about your big towers.
Yeah, the key in that fight was that B was sacrificing the archers he had to snipe out the spears. Once the spears were gone, there was nothing to stop the Lancers that he had.
I don't like looking at game score to determine how things are going, but I feel like this might be a significant indicator of the state of the game, especially considering with this little feudal age army about to... This is David and Goliath, but David doesn't have a rock. He just has a bunch of little archers trying to fire, and they're barely doing anything against these +2 range defense archers as well. E has had enough, and B still looking like an S-tier victor as he is, taking down Louis. And I would not say pretty convincingly. I would say it was a back and forth, but at the same time, B adapted playstyle in a way that we see from B time and time again. He's not scared of playing off meta.
Yeah, mixing up the build a little bit. I wouldn't even necessarily call B's build off meta too much. I think he just knew he had to delay the pro scouts a little bit. Couldn't get too greedy with it. I think that was the key. B was not too greedy. He was very careful, very calculated. And on the score, like you mentioned, I like to think that score doesn't tell you anything until it does. And in that case, at the end, you could really see, yeah, when you're that far ahead, suddenly the score, yeah, it tells you that. The opponent's really, really ahead. That's how it goes. But a great defensive play by B. This fight right here, so pivotal, is I was saying that it was imperative he didn't lose his army. And he did lose his army, but still won the game. How did he do that? He did that because Louis went in too deep, essentially, and didn't get any economic damage for it. Because it was an even wash of trade, and Louis had no follow-up, that let B get some time to remass, make a Castle Age army with lancers instead of horsemen, and then sweep the earth with them.
Oh, these poor little archers. Seeing them die one by one, he really just wanted to have that one moment where he gets the damage done needed and pivots from there, overwhelms if he may. But upcoming game on our left side, guys, we're seeing another Lancaster snipe, and I am in shambles with the level of confusion in my heart. It feels like Louis knows something we don't. This man has played against something that Lancaster has been cooking up on the sidelines that maybe even some of our pro players don't know about, because now getting sniped again after we haven't seen this civilization in such a long time, I can't wait for someone to let it through so we can get to the bottom of this.
Find out what is it about that civ. Instead, like I said, Japanese and Zhu Shi both good choices on Lipany. B saying no to the Zhu Shi, he'll take the Japanese instead, and it'll be his KT going against the Japanese. So Knights Templar on Lipany.
And
what do you like about Knights Templar here?
Yeah, KT on land is something that people haven't prioritized for a bit, but it's something that I know a lot of Russian and a lot of Chinese players are trying. So KT coming out, I don't know. I have no idea. I think a lot of people just... We're so used to seeing it on hybrid maps. It's something you see on ladder, sure, but this is not a ladder game. This is the top of the top. And KT, I'm excited to see what that 2TC build looks like on Lipany. We've seen a bit of 2TC play on land from KT, because they do struggle to get punished, but at the same time, you're up against Japanese. Going for something like the 2TC, you might be a bit greedy, and that's where Japan can overflow. So Japan, though, I think this is now where the pace comes in. We have to see what is coming out of Louis. Is this going to be something like a conservative, I would say conservative fast castle, just because it's the one we're so used to, but you don't get to do that too easily. Especially with KT having the option of going for those heavy spears too, you already have a response to those mounted samurai pretty quickly, and you can match the age up in a similar fashion. So, of course, Japan, they have feudal age options, and they do it pretty well at that. That's also why they get banned so often. So, I'm excited to see what Louis pulls out here. And that's the beauty of watching Russian and Chinese players in general. You don't know what to expect. These guys reinvent the wheel time and time again.
They definitely are some of the more innovative players we have in the scene, for sure. And you know, with the change in meta, like, I was wondering when I saw the patch notes for the most recent patch or so, the last two patches, I wondered how much the change in the cost of the TC would affect the overall meta, because for so long now it's been a Cav-centric meta, aggressive. You get up to castle, you go crazy with Cav. That's been, for most civs, the play. With the change in the reduction of cost of stone for the town centers, I was wondering, are we going to see more 2TC builds? We've already seen that today. I mean, English is a pretty standard one, but we've seen Rus go 2TC now and be successful with it. It's very refreshing to see now multiple different strategies being viable here. We'll see how this goes. KT is one of those interesting civs where I think of it as one of the more versatile civilizations in the game. I think of Byzantines being extremely versatile on the high end of that spectrum. KT also just very versatile, has a lot of different options they can go with. Japanese maybe a little more figured out. So we'll see. I think really B is going to have the tempo, set the tempo for this game, and it'll be on Louis to kind of have a game plan and maybe react to what KT offers him.
And what a little bit about these bans that I'm thinking about is you've seen your opponent ban Japan twice now. You were probably expecting to play Zhu Shi on this map. Picking Japan and thinking, okay, I'm going to play Zhu Shi, so I'm going to snipe out what actually beats Zhu Shi. And House of Lancaster might be a good answer to that, because they can shut down what Zhu Shi likes. But guys, we are ready to roll in, and that means we're going to find out what these two are going to be cooking as we head on nice and early. Now, I was gonna say, is this still a matchup where you want to go for Dark Age aggression? And Louis says, yes, you do. Because Japan, they have such a good time in the early game to do damage to anyone. And this also puts Knights Templar in a position where they can't just do what they want to do.
At the same time, it's a very long distance between the TCs. Now, that Spearman's going to have a very long hike ahead of him as we dive in. This is game number 4 of our first series today here in the Elite Classic 4 by EGC TV. B still in the green and Louis still in the pink. It's B with Knights Templar here in the southwest. In the northeast, coming in as the Japanese, Louis with that Spearman in the queue, who is, again, going to have to walk a very, very long ways. Actually, there he is, taking the hike and being chased for it.
And of course, with your scout not being there, you can't expect where the gold's going to be. So he sends it forward, hoping that that is going to be the answer. He sees the second one on arrival, but the other, he's going to need to do a little bit of a run around. Now, B has 5 on gold here, so he's fully aware. He's already pulled what he needs to, and he's going to get the gold he needs to make sure that there is no confusion coming on out. So that's the beauty of scouting, ladies and gentlemen. I know Twitch chat, you guys are all high rank, but remember to scout. B is showing us how important it can be because you need every drop to make sure that your build is effective. Now, if he stays on here for a little bit longer, this means he wants to get that extra bit to be able to get an upgrade or two, but he says, no, I am going for a clean 203 gold to just get my age up.
And 3.
No shame in the over mining. As an over miner myself, I respect.
I am, we're all just, every perfectionist out there, just completely and utterly irritated at the 3 unoptimized extra gold that he gathered. How could he? How could this S tier level player overmine by 3?
Disgusting.
It's disgusting to use your phrase, yes. These guys, I mean, I say it all the time, these guys, and if you ever get the chance to watch one of these guys play in person, it is just incredible how fast their hands move on the keyboard. I mean, you don't need too much APM to be effective in this game. You can, in fact, some APM can be superfluous, but these guys move very quick, and these guys are incredibly good, and on top of that, they've got such good game sense that they can get it down to just 3 gold, or sometimes they get it on the dot. It is just very impressive, and I'm never not amazed at just how skilled these guys play.
Now, what I like about Louis' investment here, those 2 spears that he's got, it's giving him a position where he gets the damage done he wants, but after this, he hasn't really delayed himself too much. Knights Hospitalier coming out, Bakura Storehouse with 1, those spears just gave him the opportunity to go for his fast castle that he wants to go for. The problem is, you're up against someone who is getting a significant amount of wood here, and they've got a plan. That plan seems to include a second TC, though, and I feel like we alluded to this at the start. This is time and time again just what Knights Templar does. Oh, and those spears. Louis is a little greedy goose. He's just sitting on the gold. He's like, hey, this is the only play the man can make, gold. But now, second TC from Knights Templar is the land play that we often see.
There's no way he doesn't move those spears a couple paces down to take a look, right? He's got to have the game sense to know. And sure enough, there's the scout. So, who needs game sense when you can just scout your opponent? There you go. Now he sees that he's got the spears in place. He's looking at it. Are they going to move over and rotate? Sure enough, yes they will. So game on, says Louis, as he tries to now deny this. Can he get enough damage done?
The villagers do need to pull back, but at the same time, there's enough of them to fight this. And you can see he's aware. And he's going to try to get that fight. But at the same time, you don't really mind if your opponent goes second TC. You are very much thinking about a little bit of a fun time called Fast Castle that your opponent is not going to have an answer to anytime soon. You've denied him off of gold. I say that, but that second TC is going on the gold as we see the villagers already in position, chopping the wood to make sure that they can put that second TC and secure that gold at least for a bit. And with, a samurai in the mix though. That's a fast-ish castle, but a responsible castle. The moment you add units, it becomes, instead of a fast castle, it's a responsible castle.
I like it. I'm gonna remember that. That's fine. you seen like the debates about like, is it always, everything seems to be a fast castle these days, so what exactly is a fast castle? At what point is it no longer fast? I guess building units, it's responsible. What if you build units and still get castle age really quickly?
It's still responsible castle.
Still responsible? Okay.
Yeah, because you're fast castling responsibly. Now aging up a 7. This guy, yeah, he's responsible, but maybe he's not even... I'm a little concerned here now. He's just going feudal. He's got a lot of units aging up. Maybe just thinking about, hey, how do I redirect my units? He gets the age up. Oh, he's feigning it. Oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, that bad boy is going to arrive. This beautiful little unit is about to show its face, the samurai. This man has now told his opponent, oh, I'm making samurais in feudal age. You don't need to worry, good sir. This is not a worry for you at all. But now B is going to invest into more units, which is just going to make this feel even slower. Now these spears causing a bit of idle time here too, and that samurai just making life a little bit more difficult.
I'm liking the choice. If you can get a Vil kill here or two, that'd be really, really helpful. B, probably not going to let that happen though. Pulling the villagers off. We saw that he brought some more Vils in to make sure that this goes up in a good time. A couple of low health villagers. That samurai, man, he is tanky. He's gunning for it too. He sees the weak Vil. He really wanted that one. One archer enough to take care of the spears, and that will push Louis back. At this point with that samurai, what do you do with him now? One man alone in the wilderness.
That samurai is just supposed to feign aggression, but B doesn't look like he's taking the bait at all. He saw the amount on gold. He's not taking a bait of aggression. He knows that, hey, this is most likely just going to be a position where I need to respond to your very, very sneaky fast castle. I say sneaky, but of course B gets himself a nice bit of gold trickle just by making sure the pilgrims arrive. The samurai will be able to try and harass the pilgrim, but the pilgrim should be able to still run his way to safety. Floating gate coming in. And with 11, Louis is telling us something very clearly. He wants a lot of units, and he wants them now.
Okay, is it a sneaky castle or is it a responsible castle? Now you've used both, so which is it, loueMT?
No. A sneaky castle one is a big surprise. This is a sneaky fast one because 11 tells us a very serious tone in his voice, and that voice says, he wants it right now, brother, and he's getting it right now. He needs a lot of units, but he's making samurai, so not mounted samurai being the answer. He knows that, yes, you're just going to make a bunch of spears, and then what am I going to do? But samurais, they hit a little bit differently. He's already up against an archery range, though.
Yeah, it feels like if B gets to castle age, crossbows are just the easy transition. I don't know, maybe Louis will transition here in a bit. We'll see what he builds once he gets up in age. Scout from B taking a look and knows exactly what's going to be coming. In fact, B also going to wall up the side just in time for those samurai to get to throw some torches.
And he's building morewalls.com just everywhere. He knows how to delay a game. We saw it in the Rus game. Sometimes a wall can just completely throw things off. And now the first mounted samurai in the mix as well. A few villagers staring at the wall, gonna be thinking about repairs pretty soon as well. And it shows you, Louis, he's liking this ground composition. He's going to try to get B to respond to this land army and then switch it a little bit into the cavalry as we see him now going for.
Yeah, I think that extra samurai right there, giving 3, maybe that he's trying, you can feel that Louis really wants to convince B of some things that may or may not be true. In this case, that he's going really heavy into samurai right now. He does have the one mounted instead. I don't know that B's going to fall for it. B seems to have a very cool-headed approach about this. Angevin Empire coming in. 42 seconds on the counter for that. Where's this villager off to?
This villager is...
building a siege workshop. I like this.
This was unexpected, Socketen. If there was a bingo card, I think we need to add this to the bingo card as well. Building a proxy... or a front of your opponent's base siege workshop without having any other support. This definitely feels like a little bit unorthodox, but it does feel very Louis.
I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. He's got 3 samurai right there. That's tons of support. I say jokingly, but, I do like it.
These guys are... These guys are going to be very, very aggressive. They're going to try to get B to respond. They're going to try to get B to respond. And then what am I going to do? But... I think this guy's... This was unexpected, Socketen. If there was a bingo card, I think we need to add this to the bingo card as well. Building a front of your opponent's base siege workshop without having any other support. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. He's got 3 samurai right there. That's tons of support. It does put a little bit of a split response here. Now we do see the spears coming in for B. He's going to be able to make something to handle these mounted samurai, but now you still need to find an answer to what he's cooking on the right side. Those 3 land units are just going to make sure he needs to make those crossbows, and crossbows coming out now. It took a while for the age up, but finally, oh, and the brothers are joining too.
Heavy spears. Interesting unit. Interesting unit. Sitting with 140 HP. That's pretty tanky for a spear unit. But they do pretty good melee.
And Louis capping that sacred site on the south side. I just want to point out that Louis knows that this is where the pilgrims were going. And now he only has to defend one side. So getting that sacred site was such an important play here because it completely cuts off access to there. When you see with that archer, B is going to need to try and snipe something out, but yeah, the pilgrims, they're completely stuck now. They don't get to deliver, drop off. Now B needs to focus on real gold, and what he's focusing it on is spears and crossbows, and spears and crossbows. He's going to need a lot of it though.
So those heavy spearsmen in castle without any upgrades, just being in castle age, do 31 damage to cavalry units. So that's quite the punch. Now take in mind that, you know, mounted samurai in castle age have 230 health, so it's going to take quite a couple hits to get them down, plus the deflective armor. But still, these things pack quite a punch in numbers against even these heavy calves, so it'll be interesting to see how they fare as they take a fight right now, trying to get on top of them. Looks like the bannermen will go down, and you can see them poking through, doing pretty good damage and holding their own very well against the mounted samurai.
Now, honestly, I'm very surprised that Louis decided to take a fight right into them. He was very convinced that this was going to be a fight he gets to take. Now, he's making Onamushas behind it. He's realizing, hey, maybe this was not the engagement I needed. And those mounted samurai, they are going to be sitting ducks as another one goes down and another one goes down. But he knows this trebuchet investment was so expensive. It's not just the trebuchet investment. It's a siege workshop. It's a very much upgraded tower. And now he's really invested and lost so much in that last fight. Destroyed value. You can see this is not a happy camper.
He had to defend that trebuchet, and that was why he committed them, is he didn't want to lose the investment. The problem is that by committing those mounted samurai, he lost an equal or greater investment in them. And so, man, I was giving you the stats about how much damage those hardened spearmen do. They shredded through all 200 and whatever it was, 230 HP that those mounted samurai had. It was easy pickings for the spears.
Oh, and the tower actually also going to be going down I say if, but definitely with a dead villager on the way too. He's desperately trying to keep that alive, but you see now Onamushas, they're going to need to be the ones who are microing, but that micro is so expensive because it's just constantly moving back and forth and very quickly going to be going down to the crossbows of B if he gets on top of them. Those crossbows can deal with anything at the front line, I say, as he just goes straight for the trebuchet again. But the mounted samurai, again, trading into this like they are free. And Louis, those guys are definitely not.
Crossbows to add to the mix. This is, again, a composition that is solely built to destroy mounted samurai. And unfortunately for Louis, best part of his army comp was the mounted samurai, and so now without those, I feel like he's kind of back at the drawing board trying to come up with another idea of what can he do. Meanwhile, he may have the sacred sites, but B has 2 TCs and walled off his base and is continuing to make the units that he needs to counter the mounted samurai. So what do you do if you're Louis here? What can you do?
You're up against the 2TC, Knights Templar player, who has now taken control back of the game. You need to bring in the big guns, and the big guns is throwing in a composition that will overwhelm your opponent. We've seen this transition again and again from Japanese players, and that's the Bugattis, baby. So he's got the mobility, he's going to try to overwhelm his opponent on different fronts, and then with a little bit of a surprise switch into those Bugattis to throw his opponent off. But with the mobility, you still have that bit of an advantage, a bit of a comeback mechanic but still, he's on 2 TC. This is such a difficult thing to break. And the food is going to be a limiting factor for both eventually.
Yeah, he's got a couple of Onobugeisha in the queue. He's got 6, 1 on the field. So that is definitely the play. The tricky thing is they're not upgraded. And he's got to get a big enough mass to just make that blender come online and just shred through things. Can he make that switch fast enough at this point while B is still scaling his economy behind this? It's tricky. Louis trying to pick off some reinforcements here, which is actually a pretty good call. Looking for a gap in the armor, as it were, to try and find a spot to go raid. Looking for external resources as well. Meanwhile, B pushing in. He's got no qualms about just walking into the base and really shaking things up for Louis. Louis probably not appreciating that right now, but trying to figure out what he can do. Meanwhile, more Onobugeisha coming out.
And those Onobugeisha just not as cost effective as the units of B. And with B, he's definitely got the income to be able to afford something like the Onobugeisha. So this man, he's going to need to take a lot of bad trades to fall behind. Crossbows and spears are basically all he needs to respond to what Louis has for now. Because those Bugattis are starting to build up. And when they get on top, crossbows don't go through them like they did the mounted samurai. Now, with this bit of mobility, you can see he's still trying to find some damage. He might be able to find a villager here or there, but even if he does, B is in such a good spot. He's already 20 villagers ahead, and seeing that on KT, that feels pretty good for the KT player.
At lower levels of play, that little raid we almost saw happen would have probably netted you a good handful of vills. At this level of play, though, at this advanced level of play, B's not going to let that happen. He's very aware of where his resources are, where he needs to protect, and so getting a good raid in, Louis has the right idea. The Knights aren't useful in a direct fight. Go find a way to poke and prod and get some damage and delay the 2 TC payoff. Unfortunately for him, there's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to push. B is being very methodical here.
And Louis going for a very unorthodox composition with a lot of mobility. He is hoping to just catch his opponent off guard. And honestly, if there's a man who can do it, it's definitely Louis. Well, the crossbows are standing a little bit far forward here. The boar fighting on the side of B as well. That man, he's looking angry, but he doesn't catch a victim today.
It still feels good to get the boar to temporarily join teams with you.
And with that mobility, he is going to try to keep on raiding, keep B on his toes. And it looks like he's able to do so, but the amount of spears we see from B, it feels scary. The Bugeishas, though, they're catching up. And those guys are pretty cheap. So I'm still very worried here for B. It feels like there's an opening here for Louis. And there's a world where he takes this.
The Onobugeisha, he's been taking some time. This is a really one of my favorite plays in Age of Empires, is when you get the Onobugeisha, you kind of keep them in your base for a while until they just kind of Zerg rush in your base for a bit. I mean, that's not really a Zerg rush, but they just kind of balloon in your base, and then you just rush with them, and they become this just unstoppable force. And the crossbows you mentioned earlier aren't really gonna do too much to the Onobugeisha. They obviously fall very quickly to archer fire, but crossbows operate a little differently. You know, higher base damage, but much slower rate of speed. Not quite as much overall damage in numbers as you would get with the archers. And the real thing is that it's the cost. The cost of those crossbows, pound for pound, are so much more expensive than archers, and so the trade-offs end up being very in favor because Onobugeisha are just so inexpensive.
And with that second TC that he's added himself, he's trying to keep up with B. That second TC, it's going to take a while to catch up with this, but it might just be a mechanic to say, hey, I'm going to do enough damage to you right now as I'm just burning the Bugatti straight to your base. At the speed of light, these guys are going to try and hit and do the eco damage he needs to at least equalize this. Because you can pretty quickly respond to what comes after, and he stopped producing now for quite a bit. Is he just fully focused on letting the damage hit?
Must be. In come the Onobugeisha on the south side. Boy, they just shred through stuff. They're really fun to watch. Torches coming out. It's not quite the spin to win.
No,
NCB not quite sure what to do. He wants to send some units to slow this down, but he just knows that whatever he sends is going to get just shredded into bits.
And what's really surprising is Louis doesn't commit with these into any area. He's trying to get B to respond, but the problem is he doesn't hit any damage, and now the counterattack is going to come, but the mobility here, the mobility will allow him to actually pick off a few units on the way. Now the wall very, very quickly being built as B knows the value of this. Bugatti is going to try to get that surround, and the spears, they do provide a pretty tanky front line, but they will go down eventually, and the wall is back up. A few villagers a little bit in danger out here, and they will need to pay with their lives to get back.
The downside with the Onobugeisha play is that it's been coming for some time, and B has been aware of it. He's got 35 archers on the field. He has a counter to these Onobugeisha. Now, there are quite a number of them, I should say. There's a lot. 62 to be precise. 35 to 62, not great numbers when you're trying to counter this mass. But he does have, if he can get them, they're not all in one spot. So if you can get that 35 onto half of those Onobugeisha, you'd actually have a pretty good shot of thinning out the herd. But Imperial Age, Louis has been buying time. Castle of the Crow, he has his out, and it is Imperial Age. Meanwhile, Onobugeisha really slowing what B wants to do down.
And now my big question is, does Louis have the setup to stay alive in Imperial? Because sure, he's taking trades off every side, as we can see. These guys are just melting. The archers doing quite a bit, but at the same time, you need a lot of archers to actually shut this down. Bugeishas just plowing their way through anything in front of them. But the Castle of the Crow finishing now. The question is, what now? We don't have gold for the upgrades, we don't have food income to produce units, and B was the one who was almost at Imperial Age himself, and almost at 200 supply for a bit there, but he's now committing to this. He's realizing, hey, we're gonna spend our resources, try to do a little bit of damage, and then do this responsibly. But now double fortress coming out, he's getting the map control, and he isn't looking too scared.
Yeah, he definitely, having the map control for as long as he's had has been very, very good for him. Meanwhile, Louis been trying to get back into this game. He's been on the back foot for some time. Now with 51 Onobugeisha on the field, he's able to kind of poke and prod and at least be in this game. Will Imperial Age be enough without the gold? That is kind of the issue. He's got a lot of units down to that eastern corner. There's a pretty good gold vein back there. He needs to get some stuff on it, because if he can get a lot going, maybe he can get some siege, get some stuff, start taking out all those crossbows, and we get some mangonels in the field. But right now, the archers are kind of the big problem here for Louis. He's got the Onobugeisha, but he can't really push them anywhere. And with the fortresses especially, those are going to be some really good bastions to slow the tide of pink that we see on our screen.
That tide looks like it's going to need something big to stop it, though. And you can see the mounted samurai that he's put in the mix, or maybe just the leftovers, are actually doing good work in terms of stopping these archers themselves. He needs to make sure that this mix doesn't just get counted by one unit, as we sometimes see him fall victim to. And now with the tower, he sees that this is just going to be B trying to expand onto the map. Now, of course, B didn't take a great fight there, and he's still stuck in Castle Age, but he's got a lot of fortresses. He's got a lot of gold trickle for himself. Louis, though, it feels like he's comfortable with this. He's okay with this position.
His Onobugeisha are fully upgraded. They are Imperial, so, I mean, Blender is the best descriptor I can give to Onobugeisha, in that they just kind of, we say spin to win a lot, because they really, that's kind of what they do. I feel like with 64, it reaches a point where he's going to get a critical mass, where they could just kind of take anything, even under archer fire. Now, 47 archers under one of those keeps would do a lot for B. The tricky thing is that it's really up to Louis where he wants to take the fight. He's had the mobility, especially with the Onomusha running around.
Louis looks like he wants to collapse on something, and he wants to collapse soon. We do see pink dots out there on the big gold as well, so Louis is not going to put himself in a spot where he's starving just yet. And now that final upgrade is going to make this so much harder for B to really take down. But the Tonic Order is the age of choice here, and now I'm left asking, is there a way for Louis to actually take down the keeps? Because I feel like he's just banking on the Bugattis being a complete destruction. Because with all these fortresses so far out, it does mean the main base is quite exposed.
It is, but you also can't snipe it either. You can't just, torch down the landmarks and call it a day, because the fortresses count as landmarks. So that's one win condition that's kind of removed. Now, if you destroy the base and destroy the eco, then you could follow up that with a bigger push against the fortresses. But yeah, Louis you know, remember too, he's on the back rope here. This is a match point game. If he loses this, B moves and Louis loses the series. So he definitely doesn't want to drop this game. He wants to keep this and go the distance. Can he do enough with his Onobugation? I just don't know if there's anywhere to go with them right now, because B has been very good about maneuvering his army to match where Louis is at.
And these fortresses are going to be great at shutting down anything that wants to run by, and that's exactly what he wants to do. He just wants to use these to run by. What's pretty funny is he stopped making any of them, and it feels like B is still making units with this in mind, with keeping in mind that, hey, I might be dealing with a lot more mobility on the field, but the Bugattis, they are ready to break the base and goes right on in, destroying that wall in no time. One little archer keeping them distracted, and now very quickly it looks like that green blob is trying to find a different target, but it just means the pink one, they get to decide what they want to launch.
Both players now in Imperial Age. We have officially reached the late game. The tricky thing is who's going to be able to deal with the final blow. Louis has been threatening a couple times to just dive the base with all of these. I think he's hesitant to do so, knowing that the TC fire is going to hurt. However, he does have a group doing some raiding, trying to get some damage in. Getting some.
The group kind of gets disrupted by that Teutonic Knight, as we finally understand that Teutonic Knights are the real counter to the Bugattis, and finally I understand as well, because this is something I was wondering, like, what is going to be dealing with this? But those Teutonic Knights are doing an insane job at tanking this, and the green dots in the opponent's base, Louis is getting completely thrown for a tough time here, as we see all the boys just right under him. And what's interesting is that Castle of the Crow blocking quite a bit of farm placement for any normal Japanese player, but he doesn't look like he's ready to take that fight whatsoever. The Bugattis, they're trying to slice and dice, but they're not slicing through much.
Yeah, Teutonic Knights sitting at 310 HP per unit. Now, to put that in perspective, Castle Age Mounted Samurai had about 230, I think it was. So an extra third on top of that, an extra 100 almost HP. And now if you get the full upgrades, it goes up to 356. So these knights are tanky, and not only that, they've also got incredibly good armor. With all, if you get all the upgrades, they've got 9 melee armor. So those Bugatti, like the Onobugation, are not going to be doing too much to them. Now they are expensive units though.
It looks like Louis is pretty much doubling down on this though. He realizes, hey, I'm getting countered by archers, and B is going for straight Teutonic Knights and archers. He's seeing what the value is of this, and sure, they're doing freaking great against this. Louis is just thinking, hey, this is what I'm going to keep on doing. And I'm pretty surprised to see this, but with no production now for a few seconds, I'm thinking he might be considering a tech switch as well. But what kills the Teutonic Knights? Is there anything that kills the Teutonic Knights?
Well, with 356 HP, the answer is not much. Obviously, you're looking at, things like crossbows, which Japanese doesn't really have. I mean, they got the Onimusha, but it's not really a crossbow. So it's actually a pretty good unit, I think, into Japanese. They're slow, they're expensive, they don't exactly hit super fast, but man, they're tanky, and against the Onobugation, they'll be able to hold their own.
And what we do see Mounted Samurai as the weapon of choice, and it's just because of the huge amount of archers he's up against. He knows he's going to need to get a direct counter to at least one of these units, because the Teutonic Knights, like you said, there's nothing in the arsenal that will be able to respond to them just yet. Oh, and every unit getting picked off here, it feels expensive. B is the one on 200 supply, floating a ton of resources, and Louis, he's now desperately making more Bugattis as he realizes there's nothing else he can make in time with this attacker right in his base.
Yeah, even with the Onobugation in the base, they're just not going to do much. And we see, again, the Teutonic Knights, 30 of them on the field now for B. I mean, 30 times, 310, you do the math on how much HP is walking around to tank up all this swinging blades of the Onobugation. They just don't care. And in this case, we're seeing exactly what happens when you have a unit that just doesn't care. They can just walk through your opponent's base and just not take damage, basically. So it's fun because you don't see this unit too terribly often. Some of these unique units have very niche applications, but in this case, this is being deployed expertly by B. Perfect time to use this unit, perfect time to send him out, and being used to great effect here. It feels like Louis is on the back rope and trying to come up with a way to stay in this game and stay alive, but it's been sliding away from him for some time. We see he's fighting in his base. Archer's doing some damage to Onibugeisha behind this as well. Front line's not going anywhere.
The mounted samurai just haven't landed on the archers. They're fully focused on the Teutonic Knights, and it just means that that little handful of archers, they've gotten their value time and time again. And this is something he's going to need to focus his attention on if he wants to keep taking these fights effectively. Now, with more fortresses coming out, it just means B is going to have a great time when it comes to that gold income. We can already see 3.2k per minute, but of course, there's 46 on gold. But 38 compared to, for Louis, that's a significant difference.
That is so much gold coming in for, really both players have a lot of gold coming in, but 3,000 gold coming in a minute for B is getting into ludicrous levels, and he's using it all. He's really macroing very, very well here. We see the siege now coming out. He knows he wants to finish this game. He's got to brute force it. So out come the Rams, out come the trebuchets. Meanwhile, the Imperial Cav coming out. So Louis knows that the day of the Onibugeisha is over. These are the only units that can even stand a chance against the Teutonic Knights, just because they're high damage and high HP as well. But at this point, it might just be over. Looking at 77 units for B's military versus only 27, 19 of those being samurai for Louis. The game's over.
I feel like with B learning from, hey, I'm not going to fight into Castle of the Crow the whole time. Let's try a different angle. This is the smartest move. He knows his opponent is probably starved off of gold, and this big gold that he's invested this much into is definitely going to be the way to break him. But he does get a few units picked off. The thing is, he can afford to lose a ton, and there's not much Louis can do. He does get the mounted samurai on the archers, but sure, the archers might get cleaned up, but the Teutonic Knights, they're ready for the rest of the fight. And it looks like this is an A-move situation where mounted samurai, they're not even looking at the archers anymore. They're looking at their big brother Teutonic Knights with the unlimited HP and just nightmares for hands, as Louis is waiting to die a very slow death.
I gotta imagine this will be GG here in just a second. There's just no coming back from this, and sure enough, it's called. That was the fight that decided it in the end. We have our winner of the series, B, in a 3-1 victory over Louis. Now,
Louis shouldn't feel too bad about losing against B, of course. This is not something where Louis comes and he's like, oh, damn, he looked so spicy. This man is going to set the standard for the rest of the group to be like, hey, maybe this is not going to be an easy feat to get the guy who came back from a break. He is ready to fight, and a few times there it felt like he had B in a position where B just had to play so much better to catch up. So honestly, very well played here. I'm so excited to see what we're going to get from the rest of the tournament from Louis.